Hi there, everybody. Today I'm here with Taylor, and he's from Zojacks, and we're talking about something that's really important, and it's leak detection systems in Florida. And it's unfortunate in my business, but I see lots of times where there's a leak in a building from various different sources and what the implications are of that. So I'm so glad you're here because I think this is a great solution, and it's well needed. Do you want to talk a little bit about the history of your company?
You betcha. So we're about 6 years old, relatively new. We're new to the Florida market, only about 7 months in the Florida market. How we started though is actually from a previous business. I had a security business, national security business, and we saw a need in the water space that no one was focusing on. So we decided to exit the security business. We sold our business. We focused purely on water solutions. How do we mitigate the risk, how do we mitigate leaks, the headaches, all that in one. So it's been 6 years in, we started in Utah, and we've made our way out to Florida.
So what does the company actually do for leak detection? Because I think that's a very broad term, so let's drill down and figure out what it is.
You can go on Amazon and find leak sensors. They're everywhere. They've been around for a long time. Even back in the early 2000s, there's ones that make just noise. There's a lot of differences there. So leak detection, of course, is a sensor that we would install in a unit in a house that when water touches it, you can get notified that there's water. Obviously, we've expanded that and made that a little more sophisticated now. How we like to do it is we want to move away from leak detection to leak prevention. So how we do that, I'll explain, is we still install sensors. We want to make sure, when a leak happens, we catch that. But we use automatic shut-off valves for the house, for the unit, to automatically shut off the water. So to give you an example, happens all the time, ice maker, dishwasher starts leaking. We would detect that with a leak sensor, and then we'd automatically shut off the water to the unit or to the house so that we can prevent that cascading effect of those leaks going down multiple floors, and really causing that massive inconvenience.
Yeah, and something that we talk about in Florida a lot is it's not just the water intrusion and the water damage, but it's also the implication of water sitting in mold.
You bet.
Right, and this is a huge secondary home market. So, just a noise isn't going to, help somebody if they're not in the property. You need an action that's actually going to mitigate and stop the water. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a game changer.
It is,
yeah.
For sure.
So let's talk about costs. Like, how expensive is it to do something like this?
It ranges. One thing that we like to do is we can come out and do a quote for you for no cost. Each building, of course, is a little bit different.
Yep.
So it's really hard if just go, hey, this is the price. However, we do have packages that can kind of stage up. You can start with the basics and grow. So, hey, I just want some leak detection, get notified on my app. That sounds great, we can do that. And then go to what we really should all be going to, and that is the leak prevention system with the water shut-off valves.
Yeah. Which is probably a little more expensive.
Which is more expensive.
Right.
We have to include a plumber, of course, within that to make sure that water shuts off. So it can be a staged approach into that. There's three things when you're wanting a leak detection system or a leak prevention system. There's three things you always need to look for. Of course, is the equipment, quality of the equipment, and then quality of the software. Of course, it's nice to have a notification that comes through. What does it do? How does it notify you? And then three that is the most overlooked is, it sounds so simple, but the installation and maintenance.
That makes sense.
Yeah. What we like to do and what we saw a need is there's companies or competitors out there that take care of one or two of those things, but not all three. When it comes to the equipment, for example, we've really focused on building our product for the insurance company to make sure, how would I be comfortable in insuring this property and giving them a reduction? We'll get into that a little bit. Our product is a self-enclosed product. It doesn't need Wi-Fi. If you're relying on Wi-Fi, you're relying on some other network, you're relying on someone else.
Yeah.
If you're doing notification only, you're relying on someone to do something. So how do we build a system that will work with someone, if someone reacts, if they hate technology, how does that actually happen? So the quality of the equipment is key to that.
Yeah.
Of course, software, ease, access. We have software for the individual. Let's say we're looking at a building, individual resident. They do or do not need to use that. And then we also have it for like a concierge, property manager, and they can even see the whole entire building, where we're at, how many leaks we've had for the whole year.
Fantastic.
And go from there. So software's key. But the last one, we look after the installation. We do the installation. We're not sending it to you in the box. I had a property manager the other day tell me that they were spread out 800 sensors when they were programming their own sensors. And it's just like, that's, you know,
user error,
so many problems.
And let's talk about the demographics here, right? Like technology, for the I mean, even for me sometimes, it's not our friend for some people. And then the other big thing is, you know, we don't want to talk about it, but they're hurricanes, right? So we have power outages. And so if you're relying, like you said, on some other alternate source, then what happens when you have a hurricane and we lose the power?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that happens.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And you have a solution for that as well.
For sure. So the only thing that we require for infrastructure is an outlet for our main communicator. Inside of our main communicator, there's a cell card, so we communicate via cellular. And then if the power was to go out, we have a backup battery within that, so it's still working when the power goes out.
What's the downtime in having these systems implemented? Because, you know, people don't have a lot of patience and they don't want to be, you know, having people come to their home, and it's relatively easy, it sounds like.
It is. So for downtime for a building, as long as we have shut-off valves, it could be at a unit or floor level, we're comfortable working unit by unit. In Sarasota here, we did a 16-story, 49-unit installation, and it took us about 5 days to do.
That's great.
Yes, so we work with the resident, of course, what time works best for them. So we'll notify them ahead of time, work with the property manager in doing so, and then typically we're in and out within an hour and a half. We coordinate our plumbing and our install to do it. And like I said, we do the installs ourselves, so we can kind of customize to the building's needs as we see fit.
That's easy.
Yeah.
So I know this is probably hard to quantify, but what are the costs associated with not? And I mean, it seems like it's an obvious question, but it may not be to the viewers out there of not installing systems like this.
You bet. The insurance savings, everyone's going to point to the insurance savings. It's something that we're working on right now. We're relatively new to the market. This takes usually about a year to a year and a half from other states we've worked with. So we're already progressing down that. So when we're looking for insurance savings, we don't have those right now. We're working on it. It's coming. But that's the cherry on top.
Yeah.
That's not the reason why we're doing this. It's that peace of mind. We want to prevent that damage from actually happening. We want to prevent someone having to move out, replace art, their personal items and so on. All the headache. When someone's experienced that, that is actually the biggest challenge. You know, it's emotionally draining. There's so many things to it. You've seen that.
Yeah, and also I always think mold, you know, mold is everywhere, but you know, we are in a humid climate. So, you know, you talk about someone not being in town for a couple months and they walk into a disaster like this. Now you're in mold remediation, there's a whole other area. So I can't, I'm sure we're talking in the millions, especially for a building, you know, multi-millions.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So.
Yeah, you got that.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
No problem.
I appreciate it. I think this is going to be great for people in Florida. You can find his contact details below, and we'll see you on the next one.